Sandy Says Read. Welcome to the channel. Tonight we are going to do a review of The Changeling by Philippa Carr. This book was published in 1989 by G.P. Putnam's Sons out of New York. It is 309 pages, and this book itself, I saved it to read during Christmas season because I thought it was a Christmas book. The back cover says, "On that Christmas night, I had a strange experience. I was not sure whether I was awake or sleeping," yada, yada, yada. So I've just always thought that this was a Christmas story. It's not a Christmas story. It's set in Victorian England, and it has romance elements, but it's also got some paranormal elements in it. There's some ghosts, and there's like legends and rumors around some mystic secluded pool. There's all kinds of interesting stuff going on in here, including history, politics, intrigue, and a couple of characters who are just characters you want to reach into the book and smack upside the head. I mean, there's really good writing in here, and just a lot of intrigue going on. So we're going to get into that in just a second. The main character is Rebecca Mandeville. Let me get her name right. Her stepfather is Benedict Lansdon. And Benedict is, we are led to believe throughout most of the book that he's just not a great fellow. The main character, Rebecca, does not approve of him. When we first meet Rebecca, she's 10 years old, and her mother is remarrying Benedict, and this is the end of the world. Oh my gosh, right? Rebecca doesn't want some guy coming into her life with her mother. And Rebecca never got to meet her father. He was killed before she was born. So she doesn't want this interloper coming in and ruining this wonderful relationship she has with her mom. Doesn't want this guy in between them. So we are led throughout the entire book to see, from Rebecca's point of view, that Benedict Lansdon is not great. We're led throughout the entire book to see that he has like a chip on his shoulder. And in fact, when Rebecca's mother dies in childbirth, we see Benedict go into mourning, really, of course, for his wife. And he doesn't really care for or want to do much with the child, the little girl that is born. And so we agree with Rebecca for most of the book that Benedict's really not a great guy. And when he remarries 8 years later, 6 years later, whatever it is, we don't really approve of him remarrying, but there you go. There's a lot of intrigue, and there's some scandal around that. And Benedict is going into politics. He wants to be a member of parliament. He would like to be in the cabinet. So there's all kinds of reasons for us to mistrust and not really care for Benedict. But then in the end, he turns around. So there is a redemption arc for Benedict. It's pretty quick, but there's a redemption arc for Benedict. Oh my goodness, there's so much intrigue that goes on in this book. I'm so glad that I finally read it. I've waited a long time to read this book. It was on the shelf at my great-grandmother's apartment. My great-grandmother used to read all the time, and she encouraged me to read all the time. So when she passed, this book ended up in my house. My great-grandmother used to encourage me with my writing, and with the reading. She taught me to crochet. So it took me a little while to sit down and read this book, devour this book. But I'm glad that I did, because it's a very good story. It's one of those, it's written, obviously, a long time ago, but it's written in that style that is more innocent, I want to say. The love story in here is the kind of love story where, when the gentleman takes the lady's hand, that's like our romantic climax, right? We don't have some torrid love scenes. We have lovely love scenes. Now there were some examples as I was reading through the book where I thought, oh my gosh, we writers can't do this today. There's just so many scenes where things were repeated, where information was repeated, or where information was given in some kind of long, drawn-out way, because that was the style, and it worked back then. And there was something kind of nostalgic and pleasant about reading it today. This past couple of weeks during this Christmas season, there was just something nostalgic and lovely about reading it. So I would recommend picking up this book. This is book 15 of 20 in the Daughters of England series that Victoria Victoria? Yeah, she writes as Victoria Holt as well, that Philippa Carr wrote. So this is book 15 out of 20. So there's a whole lot of stories in this series that one could devour. I wanted to read one of the scenes that I found intriguing, I guess. I found it odd. There was a scene in here where a gentleman caller assaulted Rebecca. He tried to assault her greatly. She did get away from him, and a couple of other characters came into the house, so she was saved, all right. But her reaction to it is not one we would have today. Let me put it that way. Let's see. She's speaking. This is page 214. She's speaking to. Okay, sorry guys. I should have prepared a little better, right? The two girls who have come in are speaking to her, and one of them says, "But it's only because there's hardly any furniture here. She wants to see the house." And the bad guy, John Pascal, says, "Come on," said John Pascal. "I'll show you round. Will you come with us, Miss Rebecca?" And he has just tried to assault her, and her response is, "I wanted to shout. No, I long to get away from here. I never want to see you again. You have spoiled this house for me." But what could I do? I had to behave as though nothing unusual had happened. My thoughts were in a turmoil as I went round the house with them. I was asking myself what I should do. I thought of telling my grandmother. What would be her reaction? I could not say. She would tell my grandfather, perhaps. Could I tell Pedrick? What would he do? I was in a quandary. I thought, I must do nothing at once. I must think about it. I must never be alone with him again. Okay, this whole little section right here, I thought, oh my goodness, that is not the way we would deal with that today. But this was written quite some time ago, published in 89, so there were different mindset back then. But what comes of this, I was shocked. What comes of this is basically nothing. Basically nothing. This character, Jean Pascal, his sister is married to Rebecca's stepfather. And nothing comes of this assault. She doesn't bring this up. And when she returns to her stepfather's house, it's like, yeah, well, everything is fine. I'm just not going to mention this to anyone. And she doesn't. Through the entire rest of the book, she never mentions to anyone what this man tried to do. Never. And that wouldn't fly in today's in today's writing. That wouldn't fly. But in 89, it flew. Well, there is also a plot twist, an intrigue that happens in this story with the stepfather and the child that was born. Well, of course, I'm just going to spoil this for you and tell you two children were switched at birth. These two little girls were switched at birth. I mean, it's like broadcast to the reader. The reader is aware this has happened. As you're reading, you're like, oh, well, these two just got switched. So you know it. You know it as you're reading, and you're just waiting for the characters to figure this out. And, when they do, it's like, oh, thank goodness someone finally got this. But one of the little girls is just this naughty little sprite. I mean, she's one of the characters I wanted to reach into the book and just smack her upside the head, right? She's this naughty, terrible little girl. And doggone it, but she does something terrible, and she separates the main character from her love interest. And she doesn't just separate them. She destroys the love interest's reputation. His name is Pedrick, and she accuses him of something, and everyone just takes her word for it. And Pedrick is destroyed. He goes off to Australia. His parents, I think they kept it from his parents, actually. They kept it from his, but everyone wonders why the relationship just suddenly ended. Why didn't these two go ahead and get married? And Rebecca just keeps it a secret and doesn't tell anyone. And they all think that maybe we shouldn't say anything because we don't want to ruin Pedrick's chances in the world. It's just crazy how differently people reacted to sexual assault or accusations of sexual assault back in 89. And people are just okay with it. And it was very odd. But the stepfather, Benedict Lansden, his character arc happens when he confronts this little girl who is this little sprite. He confronts her, And what no other character in the book has done, the stepfather is like, wait a minute. We all just believe this little girl? No, 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 no. And so he has her come into his study and he asks her a couple of questions. And within a page and a half, he gets the truth out of her and we set everything to right. Because this man, of course, was a man, this politician, had the strength of character, the strength of mind to say, this doesn't sound right, this doesn't seem right, and we're going to fix it. And he does. He fixes it. And we get a happily ever after at the end, like we should. So it ends nicely. It's wonderful. I'm spoiling this book for you all. Sorry, but I recommend it because you do get that happily ever after. You do get the nice ending. Everything does get wrapped up nicely. Philippa Carr did a great job on that. I recommend it. It's a good book. There are a couple of scenes in here I wanted to point out. When Rebecca is being introduced to society, that's what they used to do back in the day. And, in Victorian England, she is of a class where they need to introduce her to society by first bringing her to the Queen. They must present her to the Queen. She must curtsy to the Queen, and she has to do it in a specific way. So they're training her in how to do this. They're teaching her, here's how to, walk in a graceful and stately way. Here's how to dance properly. Here's what you're going to do when you meet the Queen, when you walk forward and you curtsy correctly, and then you back away and you leave. It's just a few seconds and it's done, and then you can come out into society. And they make a big deal out of it. And she does it right. And it's nice and it's pleasant and it's something that I think I could send to Meghan Markle and teach her something. And there you go. That's my opinion of that. Let's see. Did I cover everything I was supposed to cover? The ghosts and the legends and the rumors were just interesting. That was intriguing to me. I didn't expect to find some paranormal elements in this book, but I did, and I loved it, and it was great. I can recommend The Changeling by Philippa Carr. I hope that you guys will check out some of the stuff that Philippa Carr wrote, because her storytelling of Victorian England romance and intrigue was great. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Like the video, follow along here and all my channels. I think that's all. Merry Christmas. I've got a couple more Christmas reviews coming as soon as I get them filmed. Thanks so much, you guys.